taxpayer money to be able to provide for my children, all I have to say is I challenge you to spend one single week with me to see how damn hard it is. Not only that, but somebody who had no power until somebody gave him power thinks he gets to make a decision of what happens to my children's future with the strike of a pen. And so I have to stand up here today, never public speaking in my entire life, never doing anything like this, because I feel if I don't, in a year, my children are going to die because they don't get the medical care that they need because the public insurance companies sure as hell ain't going to pay for it. So what is my blood, sweat, and tears in doing what Republicans say I'm supposed to do as a parent? Not good enough. And why am I having to stand here and tell you, how dare you make a decision on what my children's future is going to look like when they're my children? I have one more thing to say, and it might get me in a whole lot of trouble, but I feel like this is my opportunity. Mr. Trump, I'm a pissed off mama bear. I do have a voice. I'm coming, and the people are coming with me.
What's up, Greeley? So we need another round of applause for Victoria. My name is David Seligman. I'm the Executive Director of Towards Justice, and my job is to sue giant corporations that exploit working people. Corporations have rigged the system to avoid being accountable to us. They have sought to rig the system to ensure that the power of their wealth isn't accountable to the power of our numbers. Right now, the richest man on the planet is illegally dismantling our government to serve his profits. But the writing has been on the wall for a long time. A couple of years ago, a client came into our offices. She delivered packages for Amazon, 100 or more a day. A coworker told her there's no way to stay on task, no way to meet the company's quotas unless you skip breaks and pee in bottles. She asked how she was supposed to do that as a woman, and the response, make sure you do it in the back of the truck where Amazon's cameras can't see. My clients shouldn't be peeing in bottles for the profits of the second wealthiest man in the world, Jeff Bezos. My clients right here in Greeley, meatpacking workers, shouldn't have to live with disfigured hands. Shouldn't have to pay $100 a month, $200 a month in illegal and hidden junk fees to the richest corporate landlord in the country. My client shouldn't have had to sell her late husband's wedding band in order to pay off medical debt to $1 billion hospital system. And my client shouldn't hear that the next time he asks for a paycheck, he'll get a bullet in the head and a call to ICE. of the world, not a couple of hours from Aspen, where 100 billionaires own homes. But billionaires have rigged the system to avoid being accountable to us. Amazon says that it doesn't even employ my clients, that they work for third-party middlemen, so that when they unionize, Amazon can cut the contract. Corporations pack our terms and conditions, the fine print, with clauses that say we can't hold them accountable in court even when they steal from us, even when they break the law. And they pump money into our politics to try to avoid being accountable to us, even at the ballot box. Donald Trump just named one of Amazon's top union-busting lawyers as the top lawyer for his labor board. Is that what Jeff Bezos' $1 million inauguration gift buys? $1 million that he earned on the backs of my clients peeing in bottles? None of this should be happening, but we can't give up. And it starts right here in Colorado. Governor Polis has threatened to veto the Worker Protection Act, a law that would make it easier for workers to unionize. So call him, tell him he can stand with us, or he can stand with Donald Trump and Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk. And it's not just that. We don't need the same old, poll-tested, stale talking points. We need leaders with the courage and the vision to hold corporate power accountable. Enforce the laws that built the middle class, to protect our planet. And to crack down on the oligarchs that have seized our country and stolen the American dream from us. They have spent billions, protecting the power of their wealth. So let's show up with more of us and more of us and more of us and hold them accountable to us.
Introducing AOC.
Day to be here in community with us today. Thank you. Well, first of all, my name is Alexandria. Some of you may know me as AOC. But I'm so happy to be here today, and thank you so much for welcoming me to Greeley. I really appreciate it. That you have a representative who has not done a town hall. job, you are on your best behavior and working your hardest and doing your best. I don't know if anyone's had like a probationary period at a job before. Could you imagine if we had those for members of Congress? Anyways, all of that is to say, if this is the best that you all are getting, I think you deserve better. Is a ways from here, but in truth, I think the distance between us is a lot shorter than we think, and even that we're told. And in fact, I think that we are all here together because we share in the frustration and the heartache that comes from watching those in power actively tear down or refuse to fight for everyday working Americans like us. Family. My mom cleaned houses. My dad worked really hard to try to start a small business in order to do their best to give a better future to my brother and I. And, you know, they worked really hard. And for a minute, it looked like our American dream was within grasp. We grew up and we really struggled, but my parents worked so hard. And it really started to feel like things were starting to work out. I worked really hard. I was able to get into college, and suddenly my dad was diagnosed with a really rare cancer out of nowhere. And by the time I was 18 years old, he had passed away. And I think this is an experience, while it is really difficult, I think a lot of us have had experiences like these, where we work so hard, and we are one event away from feeling like the whole rug got pulled out from under us. And we shouldn't have to live like that. We shouldn't have to live like that. You know, after my dad passed away, my mom, then overnight, was basically a single mother to 2 kids. She was cleaning houses, she started driving school buses, and when I graduated from college, I started waiting tables in order to help make ends meet. And this was right after the Great Recession, and folks know how hard it was to come by a job at that time. And so that's when I started waiting tables to make ends meet. And I know that, you know, we just deserve so much better than this. We do. Is taking over our country like never before. And we are here because we do know that a better world is possible. We need to be honest about where we are right now. We are witnessing an oligarchy in America. And that is when those with the most economic, political, and technological power destroy the public good to enrich themselves while millions of Americans pay the price. And our political system is ill-prepared for this abuse of power. In fact, much of our political system enables it, starting with the role of money in politics. Together. And, you know, I do think that, we're not, people are starting to put the pieces together. And in fact, ironically, most of the divisive forces in our country are actually bringing more of us together than ever before. Because the same billionaires are taking a wrecking ball to our country, and they derive their power from dividing working people apart. They specialize that the division that is actually hurting our country the most is how endless greed is costing the lives of everyone else. Because of the LGBT kid down the street, or because of the mixed status family or the dreamer down the block who's just trying to make a better life for us. And I understand that this kind of disdain that the wealthiest people in this country have for the working class doesn't just come from them not being raised right. It's shorthand for the right wing's entire political agenda and a certain ugly kind of politics. A politics that involves lying to and screwing over working and middle-class Americans so that they can steal Social Security and veterans benefits to pay for tax cuts for the wealthiest and bailouts for their crypto billionaire friends. There's a word for this kind of thing: corruption. Seeing all of this stack up, from how overwhelming and selfish all of this is, from seeing the notifications on our phone popping up, Monday, the Department of Education being rolled back, Tuesday, trying to end work-based citizenship. I get how all of it can make us feel despair. And I get how even it can make the best of us feel like giving up and giving in. And trust me, that is by design. That is by design. When the system is stacked against you, it's hard to feel like anything you do matters. It's hard to feel like we matter in this democracy. And it is easy to give in to despair. And I can tell you that for a while there, when I was working double shifts, tired to the bone, I did try to give up. I tried to stop caring. I tried to just keep my head down and work my shifts and accept that this is just it and this is how things are. But that is no way to live. Pressure that working people are under. But his answer is an America that operates on the principle of every man for himself. Divide and conquer. And now that Trump is back in power, we see it clear as day. He's handed the keys to Elon Musk, and he's selling off our country for parts to the wealthiest people in the world for a kickback. And in exchange, those billionaires and oligarchs will back his campaigns and bankroll those of his allies. They scratch his back, and he scratches theirs. And all of us are left behind. And the clever thing that these guys sell is making working people like you and me believe that we're just one step outside from that club. That we're just a little bit out from being able to be a billionaire too, right? Any billionaires in this room? I didn't think so. Now, it's this idea that if we just work hard, we too can have nation-state level money. Except these kinds of spoils aren't earned, really. They aren't working for these billions. They're stealing them. They're stealing them. They're stealing them from you and me. Just look at what Elon Musk and Donald Trump are doing to our healthcare
to. And by the way, not them, because those billionaires haven't paid their fair share of taxes in years. And mind you, even if you're not on Medicaid or Medicare, this also raises your private health insurance costs too. And let's talk about Medicaid and Medicare for a second. Because your representative, Gabe Evans, you know that guy that hasn't been showing up for the last couple months? Maybe he hasn't been showing up because he voted to cut Medicaid. In fact, every single House Republican voted to cut Medicaid. And they'll tell you, no, I didn't, it didn't say that. That's what it is. From the committee that's in charge of Medicaid. And so now they're trying to play a game and say, we didn't do that because they did by proxy, okay? So let's set the record straight. And you see, these budgets aren't just fights about numbers. They are fights over the values that define us as Americans. Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security were built on promises that we have made to each other about who and what kind of country we want to be and what kind of society we want to live in. Healthcare and Medicare and Medicaid and Social Security, these are not promises from politicians to people. They are not charities or handouts from billionaires to the working class. This is our money. They are promises that we have made to each other as Americans. From neighbor to neighbor, teacher to student, friend to friend. And what we can say to Elon Musk is get out of our health care. Because to me, Greeley, the strength of our country is not just measured by the height of our best days. It's measured by who we are and who is there for us on our worst. And that's why I'm here with you today. So let me share with you exactly what I mean. Because what these folks want to call radical and crazy, I think are just common sense. We live in the wealthiest nation in the history of the world. So I believe that when a person gets sick, they shouldn't go bankrupt. Common sense. I believe that a minimum wage should cover the minimum cost to live. Common sense. And by the way, we should see that not paying a living wage is also a form of corporate welfare and handouts. Because big companies like Walmart and Amazon rely on food stamp programs and public assistance to cover the wages that they won't pay. Greeley, here's another crazy radical idea for you. I believe that homes are not slot machines for investors and Wall Street. To extort working families out of every last dollar that we have. Home is sacred. And when your landlord doubles your rent overnight, or when housing prices skyrocket because Wall Street treats our housing market like a casino, your government and your public servants should fight to help you keep an affordable roof over your head. How's that for crazy? And I believe that our elected officials should take on abuses of corporate greed everywhere we find it. We must get big money out of politics. And Greeley, that's why I don't and never will take money from industry lobbyists or corporations. You know, mass media and Fox News and the right will have you believe that these American values are something out of the Communist Manifesto. They believe that we think these things because we went to some fancy college and read them in a book somewhere. But I'll tell you, I don't believe in healthcare, labor, and human dignity because I'm an extremist or a Marxist. I believe it because I was a waitress. Because I've scrubbed toilets with my mom to afford school. Because I've worked double shifts to keep the lights on. Because I lost my dad to cancer as a kid and had to see my mom open hospital bills in the days after. And I don't want us to live like this anymore, Greeley. We deserve better than this. And this isn't just about Republicans. We need a Democratic Party that fights harder for us too. But Greeley, that means our communities choosing and voting for Democrats and elected officials who know how to stand for the working class. And I want to thank the entire state and each and every one of you for working so hard to make that happen. And I'll tell you, when people want to think that there's no hope out there, trust me that there are moments of bravery that are emerging. Last week, Republicans put on the floor a draconian, awful budget bill that cut billions from health care and from working people. In fact, one of the worst parts of what Republicans voted for, including Gabe Evans voted for last week, is cutting benefits for the PACT Act for veterans exposed to burn pits. Who does that? That's like cartoon villain stuff right there. And you know, but I will say, Colorado, that when other Democrats caved, your senators, Michael Bennet and John Hickenlooper, stood strong against the D.C. pressure and voted no. They said Colorado deserves better than this. Thank you for putting in that work. And in fact, all the Democrats in the state of Colorado in Congress who represent a congressional district in the state voted against that bill too. House, Senate, everybody. So I want to thank Diana DeGette, Joe Neguse, Jason Crow, Brittany Pedersen. Defend them, Colorado. And don't stop there. I want you to look at every level of office around and support Democrats who fight, because those are the ones who can actually beat Republicans. But our work isn't done here, because you know which Coloradans did vote to gut Medicaid and jack up health care costs? Gabe Evans and Lauren Boebert right next door. So folks, you know what that means, right? We need to come together and spend every day between now and Election Day working to educate our neighbors and give Evans and Boebert the boot and replace them with a brawling Democrat who will stand for Colorado. In fact, if you will indulge me for a moment, since Gabe hasn't been around here, If we could just say hi to him for a moment. Can we just say hi? See you in November. Thank you. I'll make sure he sees that. But beyond elections, Greeley, our task here is to build community. That's the deeper mission that we have. Elections, they come and go. We do our work. We set the board. But in the meantime, and during, throughout, before, and after all of that, we need to build our bonds with each other as communities. Building community, block associations, neighborhood groups, volunteer groups, church organizations, PTAs, because community is the most powerful building block we have against fascism, to defeat authoritarianism, and to root out corruption. If you don't know your neighbor, it's easier to turn on them. That's why they want to keep us separated, alone, and apart, scrolling on our phones, thinking that the person next to us is some kind of enemy. But they're not. So I'll end where I began. We might all come from different places, but we share a lot of the same experiences. So to all of those who came here today unsure of whether this is where you belong, I want to tell you that you do. You do. Honestly, no matter who you voted for in the past, no matter if you know all the right words to say, no matter your race, religion, gender identity, or status, no matter if you disagree with me on a couple things, if you are willing to fight for someone you don't know, you are welcome here. If you are willing to fight for working people, regardless of who they are, how they identify, or where they come from, you are welcome here. But I will say this. Those leaders on either side of the aisle who are willing to put their fellow Americans down so that they can get ahead or feel better about themselves, those folks may best find a home somewhere else. Because in this house, we stand together. We know that that is our only choice. Because we know that without exception, if we stand together, it is the only way that we can win. So I hope that you see this movement is not about partisan labels or purity tests, but about class solidarity. It's about the thousands of you who came out today to stand together and say our lives deserve dignity and our work deserves respect. No matter who we are or where we come from. We are here today to make a sacred promise to each other. Because our goal here today, and what I don't want for us today, what I want more for us today, is not just to come together, share a few inspiring words, and then go back to how things were. Can't do that. Our goal here today is to commit to building the kind of country we all deserve. So I'm going to take another second here, and I want each of you to turn to the people around you and get a good look. And I want you to greet someone you don't know. This is awesome. And I think I don't want to interrupt. But it's because if I can offer one assignment today, before we all depart here, it's to leave this place connected to a new person you didn't know coming into this. Greeley, we do need to make that promise. We do need to take care of each other on our worst days and to share the successes of our best. And in making those promises to each other, that's how we're going to do it. No silver bullet, not from the top, but block by block. So thank you for having me. And it is my honor to introduce to you the senator, the man, the friend, the person who has helped bring all of us here together today, Senator Bernie Sanders.
Thank you, Greeley. You know, I was told that you have a little bit over 100,000 people in Greeley. And between the 6,000 who are outside and the 4,000 who are here, I think we got 10% of the community at this rally right now. Thank you. Now, I want to say a word about Alexandria. When Alexandria was a kid, you correct me if I'm wrong, she cleaned houses with her mom in order to make enough money for the family to survive. And then after she graduated college, she was a barista, working paycheck to paycheck. But what she did, as she looked around her and in her community in Bronx, New York, is she saw that change had to come. And so what she did is decided to run for Congress, and people said, what, are you kidding? The guy who represents the district was one of the most powerful members of Congress. He had access to unlimited kinds of money. How much money did you have when we started? You started?
None.
None. All right. But she did what real politics is about. Real politics is not sitting at million-dollar fundraisers. It's working with people in your community. And she worked hard, and her friends worked hard, and she pulled off a major upset. And since then, she has been a great member of Congress, but not only that, she has been an inspiration to millions of young people all across this country. Now, the reason I say all of that is not just to praise Alexandria, and I love her, but is to tell you and the people of America that what Alexandria did, you can do. There are millions of young people out there who love this country, who are disgusted with what they are seeing, who are prepared to get involved in the political process. So, Alexandria, thank you for being that inspiration. So why are Alexandria and I here today? Why will we be in Denver later this evening? Why were we in Tempe last night? Well, there was an unbelievable number of people coming out. Las Vegas earlier than that. And we'll be in Tucson tomorrow. Why are we doing that? And we're doing that because this country faces a set of enormous crises. And how we respond to this moment will impact not only our lives, but the lives of our kids, future generations, and in terms of climate change, will impact the future of this planet. And what I have to tell you is that given the huge turnouts we have seen already on this trip, it is clear to me that the American people are outraged at what's going on. And the American people are saying loud and clear, we will not accept an oligarchic form of society. We will not accept the richest guy in the world running all over Washington, making cuts to the Social Security Administration, cuts to the Veterans Administration, almost destroying the Department of Education, all so that they could give over $1 trillion in tax breaks to the wealthiest 1%. But it's not just oligarchy we've got to deal with. Under Trump, this country is moving very rapidly to an authoritarian form of society. Today, we have a president who is undermining our Constitution every single day, who is threatening freedom of speech and freedom of assembly. You know, I look back at the civics class that I took in the 6th grade a few years ago. And you probably took the same class. We studied American history. We studied the Constitution. And it's important to remember what we learned back then, and that is that the founding fathers of this country, way back in the 1790s, you know, they had fought a war against the all-powerful King of England and the British Empire. And they're thinking, how do we create a new country in which one person will never, ever have the kind of power that the King of England has? So with a lot of debate, and these were really smart guys, a lot of debate, they said, you know what we are going to do is create a government and a constitution which has a separation of powers. And that means we're going to have a executive branch and a president, a lot of power. We're going to have a Congress, a lot of power. We're going to have a judicial branch, a lot of power. And that is what they put together. And that is precisely what Donald Trump today is trying to undermine. First Amendment to the Constitution is the all-important freedom of speech. And in a way that is unprecedented, Trump is trying to intimidate the media and anyone who speaks out against them. He loves the media when they fawn all over him. But like other cowards, he can't stand to be criticized. Trump has sued ABC, CBS, Meta, and he sued the Des Moines Register because he didn't like a poll that they did. His FCC is now threatening to investigate PBS and NPR. He has called CNN and MSNBC illegal. In other words, the so-called leader of the free world is afraid of freedom. Well, Mr. President, if you are too cowardly and too vain to accept criticism, then get out of politics. Because that is precisely what democracy is about. That's what the beauty of democracy is about. It's your ideas and my ideas, and we argue about them, and we vote on them. It's not do as I want, or I'm going to investigate you. But it is not just the media that he is going after. He's going after the constitutional responsibilities of Congress. Congress, under the Constitution, has the power of the purse. And every day, he is challenging that, slashing funding without authority that only Congress can do. Trying to wipe out agencies that Congress has created and only Congress can eliminate. But it's not only the media and Congress that he is going after. The third branch of government is the judiciary, and what they are supposed to do, what the federal courts do, is rule on whether laws are constitutional in their judgment or not, what the president does, constitutional or not. And there have, let me tell you, been many decisions coming down from this Supreme Court that I abhor. Their Citizens United decision, one of the worst decisions ever rendered. Their decision to overturn Roe v. Wade, a horrible decision. But those of us who live by the rule of law understand they have their powers, we have our powers. But now, for the first time, what Trump is doing is saying to a judge who issues a ruling, we don't like that ruling, we're going to get you impeached. President Trump, millions of Americans have fought and died to preserve American democracy. We're not going to let you take it away from us. And we thank all of those veterans who put their lives on the line to defend democracy. But it's not just oligarchy and authoritarianism that is on our minds. All over this country, people are standing up, and they're saying we will not accept a society of massive income and wealth inequalities. A society in which the very rich are getting much richer, while millions of working families are struggling to put food on the table. And what people are saying is that in the richest country in the history of the world, we are going to fight for and create an economy and a government that works for all of us, not just the 1%. All right, I'm going to do something radical now. You ready? All right. I'm going to tell you the truth. I know, pretty radical, but what the hell? Only go around once. That is, I want to take a few minutes to describe to you what is really going on in this country. And it's something that you don't see much in the corporate media, and you certainly don't hear discussed in the halls of Congress. And that is, in America today, we have two separate Americas. On one hand, we have an America in which the wealthiest people have never, ever in the history of our country had it so good. Today, we have more income and wealth inequality than we have ever had. Today, we have three multi-billionaires, Mr. Musk, Mr. Bezos, Mr. Zuckerberg. These three combined own more wealth than the bottom half of American society, 170 million Americans. Now, we don't talk about it much for obvious reasons. But the idea that so few have so much and so many have so little is not what this country is supposed to be about. And further, let's take a look at concentration of ownership in the economy. You know what we hear? Kids read in school books, we are a society. People go out and they start their own small businesses. Free enterprise is great. Everybody competes against each other. That ain't the case. Today, you have more concentration of ownership in America than we have ever had in the history of this country in sector after sector. Whether it is agriculture, transportation, media, financial services, what you have is a small number of extraordinarily large corporations who charge us outrageous prices for the products that we have to buy. Now, let me mention just one example of concentration of ownership. Today, nobody talks about it. Today, you got three Wall Street firms, BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street. You ever hear of these companies? Combined, these three investment firms are the majority stockholders in 95% of American corporations. And these guys, I want to tell you something because I bump into them in my line of work. They are not nice guys. I know on TV they come across, and in your community they make a donation to the hospital or the Boys and Girls Clubs or to the food shelf. They're just very nice, but they're not. You know, in America today, as I think all of you know, sadly and tragically, and we've got to deal with it, we have major epidemics dealing with addiction. I think we lost 100,000 Americans last year because of drug overdoses, serious problem in my state. We have people addicted to alcohol, serious problems with alcoholism. We have people who are addicted to tobacco. My father smoked 2 packs of cigarettes a day and he died before he was 60. People addicted to food. But I will tell you this, in the midst of all of these addictions, the worst and most dangerous addiction we have is the greed of the oligarchs. Now, everybody wants to do well in life. Everybody wants to make money. But you would think that if you had a few $1 billion or $10 or $20 billion, you would not feel obliged to step on the backs of poor people to become even richer. But that is exactly what they are doing right now. They are prepared to destroy Social Security, Medicaid, Medicare, the Veterans Administration in order to make themselves even richer. And these guys have no sense of what goes on in the real world. They live in another planet. They own mansions all over the world. They go on vacations to their own private islands. When they want to go someplace, they don't go into the car. They go into the planes or the helicopters that they own. Send their kids to the best private schools and colleges. That is their world. Let me tell you about another world, the other America that we don't talk about. And that is today in the richest country in the history of the world, 60% of our people are living paycheck to paycheck. You all know what paycheck to paycheck is? Some of you live in paycheck to paycheck. I grew up in a family, lived paycheck to paycheck. Know a little bit about that. And what that means is people today are wondering, how are they going to pay their rent if their landlord raises the rent by 20%? How are they going to pay $20,000 a year for child care when they're only making $50,000 a year? People want to buy decent, good quality food for their kids. Walk into a grocery store, can't afford that food because the prices of food are sky high. People get sick. Their kids get sick. They're uninsured or underinsured, and they're saying, how in God's name am I going to be able to take my kid to the doctor's office? At the end of the month, people have thousands of dollars in credit card debt, paying 20, 30% interest rates. How the hell do I pay those rates? And what happens if my car breaks down? Something as simple as that happens every day. And I go to the car shop and the guy says $1,000. Get it fixed. I don't have the $1,000. What do I do? What do I do if I can't get my car and I can't get to work? And if I can't get to work, I get fired. And if I get fired, how do I take care of my family? You know why the American people are angry, and they are angry all over this country? They are angry because, believe it or not, despite a huge increase in worker productivity over the last 52 years, if you could believe it, real inflation accounted for wages today are lower than they were 52 years ago. Meanwhile, there has been a $75 trillion transfer of wealth from the bottom 90% to the top 1%. That is what a rigged economy is about, and that is what we are going to change. So let's also take a look at other aspects of American society. Anybody here think our healthcare system is working well? It is a broken and dysfunctional and cruel healthcare system. We are spending twice as much per capita on healthcare. We're spending $14,000 for every man, woman, and child. Yet 85 million are uninsured or underinsured. Do you know what underinsured means? How many people here have high deductibles? What kind of deductible do you have, ma'am? Do you know? $7,500. What do you got? How much? $20,000. Deductible, what do you got? $9,000. $8,000. $7,000. All right. What does all of that mean? It means that even though you have insurance, when you get sick, you still can't afford to go to the doctor. How insane is that? And you know what the result is? We don't talk about it much. 60,000 Americans die each year because they don't get to a doctor on time, because they're uninsured or they're underinsured. And I want to deal with another issue. You'll excuse me for being professorial here and a little bit boring. But it's important that we know this. And here's again a fact never or very rarely talked about. Right? Here's the fact. Despite spending so much on health care, our life expectancy, how long we live, is about 4 years younger, 4 years shorter than other major countries. That's bad. That is bad. But I want to tell you what is even worse, and I want you all to think about it and help me out here. If you are working class in America, you will live on average about 7 or 8 years shorter lives than if you are wealthy. In other words, being working class in America is a death sentence. All right, question. Why is that? Why is that? Raise your hand. Tell me why. Yes, ma'am. Why? Stress? All right, stress. All right, let me deal with that. All right. The woman here said stress. And she's absolutely right. What kind of stress are working class people living under today? Who wants to help me out on that? Hold on. 1.5. I can't get you all. Yes, I see a hand there, ma'am. Survival. Okay. Stress means you're trying to survive every week. Okay, more. Ma'am? I own a small business and I can't get corporations to pay their bills. Yes, ma'am. Financial stress. Yes, ma'am. Taxes. Tuition. Yup, way back there, ma'am. What? Safety. Okay, yes. What? Dental. Dental work. Thank you for raising that issue. Anybody have a problem with the cost of dental care in America? Bloody right. All right, other issues. Yeah, I see a hand. Young man back there. Yeah. Workplace safety. Okay. Yes, ma'am. Mental health. All right, look, we can spend 2 hours going on here. All right, but here is the bottom line. When you are struggling paycheck to paycheck, you are worried about how you survive every single week. And doctors call this almost the physiology of poverty. That stress that you live with 24 hours a day eats away at your body and your mental health. And that is the major reason why working class people are dying 7 years earlier than the rich. It is a shame, but it's more than a shame. It is unacceptable. And the point that I want all of you to get ingrained in your heads, look, if we were a poor country like Haiti, a really poor country, I would say to you, well, I'm sorry you don't have good health care. Sorry you don't have good dental care. Sorry you can't send your kids to college. We're a poor country. We can't afford it. Brothers and sisters, we are the richest country in the history of the world. There is no excuse for working class people dying 7 years earlier than the rich. There is no excuse that 1 out of 4 Americans cannot afford to fill the prescriptions that their doctors write for prescription drugs. There is no excuse that in the richest country on earth, 800,000 Americans are homeless, and 20 million people, including people in this room, paying 40, 50% of your incomes for housing. No excuse that our child care system is a disaster, outrageously expensive, while workers there are being paid low wages. No excuse that our public schools are struggling, trying to get teachers. No teacher in America should make less than $60,000 a year. So, my friends, why is all of this happening? Why is it that the rich get richer and working class people die younger than they should? Well, it has everything to do with the fact that we're living in an oligarchic form of society. You know, I've been talking about that for a few years. But I think the rest of the world is catching on to what I was talking about. And the reason is you got to be dumb and blind not to see what's going on. You got a President Trump getting inaugurated, and I must tell you, one of the more bizarre experiences of my life was I was kind of pushed into the front row of that. And there I am, there's Trump, and right behind him, you got Musk, Bezos, and Zuckerberg. Three wealthiest guys in the country. And then behind them, you got 13 other billionaires who Trump nominated to head up various government agencies. You know, Abraham Lincoln talked about a government of the people, by the people, for the people. Well, Trump has a government of the billionaires, by the billionaires, and for the billionaires. And what these guys are busy doing right now is going after Medicaid, going after Social Security, going after nutrition. Rich want to get richer, and they don't care who they step on. Now, it is imperative that we fight Trump every step of the way. And by the way, it is not just on domestic issues. This country has a 250-year history, and never before have we had a president ally himself with a terrible dictator like Vladimir Putin. And on top of that, Trump wants to continue the disastrous policies of the Biden administration and provide more funding for the Netanyahu government to destroy the people of Gaza. All right. Our job, though, is not just to play defensive. We've got to get on the offensive as well. And that means having a vision of where we, as the wealthiest nation on earth, the longest standing democracy on the planet, where do we want to go? What kind of nation do we want to become? And for a start, the profound issue that must be dealt with is we must end this corrupt campaign finance system. Now, I don't care if you're a Republican, Democrat, or Independent. I don't think there's anybody who thinks it vaguely makes sense that the richest guy in the world could spend $270 million to get Trump elected and then become the most powerful person in the government. It's not just Republicans, let's be clear. Billionaires are funding the Democratic Party and preventing that party from standing up for working families. Bottom line, we need to end Citizens United, move to public funding of elections. Trump wants to give massive tax breaks to billionaires. Our view, it's time that the billionaires started paying their fair share of taxes. Republicans refuse to raise the minimum wage. We want to raise that minimum wage to a living wage, at least $17 an hour. Musk and Bezos and others want to break unions. We believe in the trade union movement. Workers all over this country want to join unions. They're being stopped by the illegal activities of corporations. We've got legislation in that will end that. Let's pass the PRO Act. Trump and his friends want to cut Social Security. We're going to expand Social Security by lifting the cap. Trump and his friends want to cut Medicaid. Well, we got a different idea. We're going to join the rest of the industrialized world, guarantee health care to all. It's a human right. We're going to fight and pass Medicare for all, single payer. In a competitive global economy, we need the best educated workforce in the world. Young people should not go broke or in debt because they want to go to college or a trade school. We desperately need doctors and nurses and teachers and carpenters and sheet metal workers and construction workers. We need to make sure our people get educated without going into debt. We need to make our public colleges, universities, and community colleges tuition free. We need to save the planet. And create millions of good-paying jobs by transforming our energy system. Oh, what? All right, we need an EMT, please. All right, we got a medical issue. Medical issue. Somebody fainted? All right, we need some help here, please. Security. All right. All right, they're on the way from the back. Let's take a break for a moment. What? Yeah. Are we okay? Okay, good. All right. Thank you. You know, Trump and his friends talk about freedom. Well, in a free society, we must absolutely guarantee that it is the women of America who control their own bodies, not the government. Look, let me end on this note. And the note is that this is a very difficult time in the history of our country. It's not the first difficult time that we've had. Remember, we've gone through a civil war. We've gone through slavery. We've gone through workers trying to form unions and getting beaten up and killed. We've gone through a depression. We've gone through 1941 being attacked and not knowing how to respond. We've gone through a lot of things. But this is what I believe, the essence of, I think, what we are about. And that is, if we stand together, if we care about each other, if you care about my family and I care about your family, if we don't believe that the goal in life is just to make billions and step on other people and to lie, cheat, and steal, if we believe that love and compassion is what motivates us, now, if there are some Republicans here, Republicans watching and on the live stream, Republicans did not vote for Donald Trump in order to give tax breaks to billionaires and cut Social Security. Believe me, they didn't. And the reason that Trump has been successful and why demagogues around the world are successful, you know what they do? They play one group off against another. They're telling you who you're going to hate. And our job is to do exactly the opposite. The right wing wants to divide us up based on the color of our skin, or where we were born, or our religion, or our sexual orientation. And our job is to come together. Now, I don't have a PhD in mathematics, but I do know this, that 99% is a hell of a lot larger number than 1%. So if we stand together, are strong, are disciplined, are smart, I have every reason to believe, deeply in my heart, that not only will we defeat Trumpism, but we can create the kind of nation that we deserve. Thank you very much.